Control of the Senate is also on the ballot. Voters will determine the fate of roughly a third of the seats in the Senate. And one state that's worth watching is Florida. Republican incumbent Senator Rick Scott is running for re-election in this red state, but the latest local polls are showing that this race is getting a little bit tighter. Scott's Democratic challenger, former Congresswoman Debbie Mucarsel-Powell, can complete that tall task and flip that seat blue. It could potentially further shift the balance of power in favor of the Democrats. Joining me now to discuss this is former Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Mucarsel-Powell of Florida. She is now, of course, the candidate for U.S. Senate in the Sunshine State. Congresswoman, you recently stated how Democrats should, quote, stand behind Kamala Harris. As someone who's in the mix and on the ballot and, has their finger on the pulse of what's going on, I'm kind of curious how you've experienced the trickle-down of the enthusiasm from the Harris campaign. It used to be conventional wisdom that Florida was lost. People still think it's a long shot for Democrats, but do you feel like there's a surge in momentum here?
Yeah, good evening, Sam. Thank you so much for having me. Look, the momentum and the energy that we're feeling now, especially after the vice president announced her candidacy, is palpable and it's only growing. It's not going to stop. We've seen over 30,000 volunteers have signed up to help the Harris campaign and to help my campaign here in the state of Florida. But this energy started about a year ago. It's one of the reasons why I decided to run. We have an affordability crisis. We have an insurance crisis where people are being priced out of their homes. And we have in the Senate the most extreme senator in Rick Scott, someone that wrote a plan, the preamble to Project 2025, somebody that wants to sunset Medicare, Social Security. He wants to repeal the Affordable Care Act. And so people here are done with the extremism. They're energized. Young voters are registering to vote. And I need everyone with me because the Senate majority runs through Florida. I know that we can defeat Rick Scott, but I need every single person watching to support this race. Debbie for Florida, please go and support me.
Got your plug in there. Your state has also become kind of the epicenter for reproductive rights. And that will be spotlighted this next week with the Harris-Walz campaign starting a reproductive rights bus tour in Palm Beach. Just talk to me a little bit about how this conversation around abortion, reproductive rights, the Florida's ballot measure, which Trump has now weighed in on, how is that bleeding into your race? How is that affecting your chances here?
This is a top issue, a top of mind issue for every single Floridian living here in the state of Florida. I actually just had a conversation with a couple of young men who are Trump supporters. And what's their top issue? Abortion. They are rejecting one of the most extreme bans on abortion here, a 6-week abortion ban with hardly any exceptions to rape and incest. And Rick Scott has said time and time again that he supports a 6-week ban, that he would have signed this bill if it would have come to his desk when he was governor. He actually co-sponsored a national abortion ban, voted against IVF, voted against access to contraception. He's one of the most dangerous Republican senators running for re-election. And that is why this race is so critical. Because even if we pass, now we have an abortion amendment on the ballot to protect abortion rights in the state of Florida. Even if we pass Amendment 4 in the state of Florida, if Rick Scott gets reelected and then becomes Senate Majority Leader, which he has expressed he's trying to become if he gets reelected, of course, he has to get through me first, he will push for a national abortion ban. That's why we cannot allow him to win in November. And
very quickly, you are making history as the first Latina running for U.S. Senate in Florida. If you win, you will be only the second Latina ever elected. Talk to us a bit about why and how that is important for your state.
So many families here in the state of Florida identify with my story, the story that my mother had the courage to leave everything behind, to bring me and my sisters here for freedom, the very freedom that Rick Scott is trying to rob us here, and the safety that we've had for so long here in the state of Florida. And now we're facing one of the highest rates of gun violence. We came here for economic opportunities that are also being robbed away, not only by Rick Scott, but extremists. So I'm really proud to be the first Latina to be on the top of the ticket here in the state. I don't want to be the last. And we need to lift up our voices. Representation matters. And that's what I intend to do when I get to the Senate.
All right. Former Congresswoman and Senate candidate Debbie Mucarsel-Powell, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. We did, I should note, reach out to Senator Scott's campaign, but have not heard back.